A couple weeks back, PlayStation brought me out to play Insomniac's Marvel's Wolverine, and as the hairiest man in the video games industry, I am uniquely qualified to tell you about what that game is like. In fact, I did it in a written preview, which you can check out on GameSpot.com, and also a video, which you can check out on the GameSpot YouTube channel. If you want a kind of structured, thoughtful analysis of what I played, that's where you want to go to get it. If you want to hear the ramblings of a hairy madman, this is where you stick around, because I will give you that. I enjoyed what I played, but I also left feeling quite unmoved about it, and that's going to sound more negative than it is. I am excited to play Wolverine. I love Wolverine as a character. I love Marvel Comics. I love Insomniac's work. This is very much in my wheelhouse, but we'll come to it. But it also feels very, very much like we're reaching the end of the road in this type of game in various respects, both the format and also the subject matter. First, take it from the top. Wolverine takes place many, many years before the X-Men canon, as you probably know it, and as I'm used to reading it. It's set before the X-Men are established, but Wolverine has existed for hundreds and hundreds of years. He's been around, knocking about, doing nasty stuff, smelling like hot trash. What I like about it from the outset is that it's kind of subverting a lot of expectations narratively. I expected the helping hand that you see immediately to be the helping hand of Charles Xavier, because that's the role that Charles Xavier plays in the fiction of X-Men. But instead, what they're doing is they're chucking in another character, a villain, into that role. Nathaniel Essex. Spoilers, Nathaniel Essex is a villain. He is Mr. Sinister. Nathaniel Essex is the one that looks like metal Dracula. He's obsessed with genetics and evolution, and his whole thing is like, I'm gonna try and be the coolest, most immortal X-Man mutant dude ever. But in this game, he starts off as being the helping hand that kind of brings mutant kind together under the banner of self-preservation and fighting discrimination, which again is what Professor Charles Xavier usually does. Obviously, there's going to be an arc immediately. You can see the cracks start to forming where Wolverine is noticing that Nathaniel Essex is a bit of a freak. He's doing some weird stuff. Like, he's a bit mad. He's a bit too mad. Like, Wolverine knows what it's like to be mad at everyone and, stabby. But Nathaniel Essex is like mad in a creepy way, which I think is starting to set off some alarm bells in Wolverine Logan's head. It kind of reminds me of the way Mr. Negative is in the Insomniac Spider-Man games. But we're introduced to Wolverine very early. He's basically hiding in a bush, and Nathaniel Essex is like, you stink. You've probably been eating your own poop. Why don't you come and I'll look after you, and we'll fight for mutants. And then from there, you kind of are on this journey where you are part of Team X, I believe it's called. I keep confusing it because there's Task Force X. There's so many X variants of team names. But this is basically Mystique, Wolverine, and Sabretooth on a crew together under the leadership of Nathaniel Essex, and they have been operating for a little while. When you pick up the game after he's been recruited, it's actually many years later, and the team's kind of like split. They've kind of gone their own separate ways, and they have reformed because Nathaniel Essex has been captured by Bolivar Trask, who you may know as one of the minds behind the Sentinel program, which again, if you've seen any of the 90s or 2000s era movies, you'll know about Bolivar Trask. Or if you've read the comics or Days of Future Past or watched X-Men 97 or the original animated series from the 90s, you'll be very familiar with Bolivar Trask and also the Sentinel program. This is the purple robots that they send out after everyone, created by Master Mold to just find mutants and like step on them like the little bugs or like capture them or whatever. Those he's the kind of main villain until the other villains show up, if you know what I mean. Because the idea of discrimination is a big theme in this. Bolivar Trask kind of is the figurehead of that discrimination in a lot of ways, and so you get a lot of face time with him, and he's always knocking about being a real nasty human being about, wanting to take out mutants and that kind of stuff. But he's got Nathaniel Essex now, and you and your crew go out there to rescue him. Pretty much immediately, the gameplay experience that I had was both exactly what I expected and also a little bit different, in that I expected it to kind of fit into the formula of the open world style format that worked for Insomniac in Spider-Man. But I guess that was foolish, because obviously Spider-Man is a character that thrives in an open world where you can swing around, whereas Wolverine is more at home in tight environments where you can get up close and he can stick his little claws into people and shred them, and you get like some good action set pieces out of that. It was actually a little more open than I expected, because it was like you've got these areas that are wide enough for you to kind of skulk around in the shadows and do stealth attacks and that kind of stuff. And that stuff is fun, but ultimately it's always building towards a crescendo, which is all hell breaks loose. You are stabbing everyone, you are killing everyone, and there's blood everywhere. Sabretooth is knocking about, doing wild stuff alongside you, and it's really fun. It's that kind of the same way that X-Men Origins Wolverine. It wasn't the story that was compelling, it was the fact that it was brutal. And this is another game where it's gonna get a lot of mileage out of the brutality of it. It's built in the Batman mold almost, where the combat, and same as Spider-Man, the combat is very familiar to you. You're going to be doing combo strings, hitting the counter button, kind of crowd management, and then using your own abilities. Obviously, he doesn't have the gadgets that Spider-Man has or that Batman has. So a lot of his stuff is built around, Logan's stuff is built around different types of ways to use his own rage and his acrobatics and his claw abilities. So that's kind of where the brutality comes in. You do have like a spider sense Batman vision style thing. It's kind of his instinct that allows you to like see enemies through environments and kind of like plot a path. That's just the areas where it's like you want to thin the crowd out and be strategic before it all kicks off and you're just throwing caution to the wind and just shredding everyone. But that stuff is really satisfying. I found it unsurprising, but I wasn't upset about that. It was very much what I expected of it. It was fun. It was brutal. It was kind of like tactile. I love that pretty much every skirmish begins with Wolverine just launching himself towards enemies. And that always leads into just a bunch of mayhem and chaos. That's kind of how pretty much every skirmish against normal enemies plays out. And then it develops into that thing where it's like, this is an enemy that you cannot just come up front and punch because they're very armored. They've got a shield, so you need to either destroy the shield by kicking them or get around the back and do that kind of attack. Variants that make you think a bit on your feet and prevent you from just kind of zoning out. You have the enemies that are staying far back and are going to be shooting at you, so you need to crowd control them, prioritize them. And then in other areas, you are in scenarios where it's like, oh, you're in a room that's basically removing your ability, your healing factor, and your kind of like superpower basically. So you've got to destroy these machines around the room before you get that healing factor back. And if you're not quick about it, you'll take a bunch of damage and you might die before you even get to the point where your healing factor kicks in and you can actually go full Wolverine mode. That's kind of like the main gameplay crux of it. And then you have abilities that are, some of them are like actual cooldown abilities. Like you had one which is like turns him into a little spinning Beyblade man with his claws out. So it kind of helps you get people off of you. But there are other abilities as well. And there's like upgrades and you can do like statistic based upgrades, so you're a little more powerful. The main hook of the combat is the rage meter though. So in the gameplay, you'll see these kind of like bars underneath his health, which are, they correlate to how mad he is. And as we all know, the madder Wolverine gets, the more vicious he becomes. And the game really leans into it. And I talk about this in my preview. It's the thing that I think really distinguishes it. And at times I looked at it and I was thinking about it and I was like, am I just reading way too much into this? Am I just kind of looking for something that might not be there and ascribing nuance to something that might not? But the more I played it, the more I felt that kind of difference where it was like, oh, most games like Batman, they do have a momentum style system. Same with Spider-Man. Like, it's still combo based and that kind of stuff where you keep your combo up and you get more points and it feels good. What's different about Wolverine is you keep that combo up and it kind of builds into him getting more and more angry to the point where eventually he will kind of lose himself and go into this berserker state. And the way that you as a player connect to him doing that is what really makes this combat feel unique, because as the combo goes on and you build up rage, you want to try and hold on to it. You can do, like, for example, when you build one bar, I unlocked this ability where if I hold triangle, he would like plunge his claws into someone's neck. And when you did that successfully and kill them, you would gain some health back. So that's a kind of way to shorten the loop of combat, so you're given a little more durability. However, once you're good enough and you have got a good grasp of the combat, you can just skip that, maintain your health, and just keep building. And as you build it longer and longer and longer, eventually at 3 bars for me, he would get into that berserker state where everything kind of like simplifies, which I really love it as a representation of Wolverine just kind of like devolving into his base instincts. And you as a player are doing the same thing because you don't have to think about it very much anymore. You're not trying to be strategic because he's so out of control and so brutal that there's no point in trying figuring out strategies. Just smash those buttons, because when you smash those buttons, he's going to do the gnarliest shit possible. Like, he's going to do the most insane, gross stuff to everyone around him, to the point where they're like, oh my God, I'm about to get my ass beat. And that is a kind of connection between you and the character on screen that haven't seen in other games that use that free flow Batman style combat or other superhero games. I really was into that. So you build that up, and then they do a great job of making sure that you feel it and see it as well, because at that level 3 berserker kind of point, visuals, they kind of desaturate and it's not as colorful. There's still blood and guts and everything around, but like everything is kind of black and white, and it's kind of like that tunnel vision style approach where it happens visually but also in what you're hearing as well. The kind of music fades out and it feels a lot more visceral. It feels a lot more like you can hear the breathing and the sound of fluid and like guts and sinew being like torn apart. So it's kind of like this blackout state, which I really loved. And as the player, all you're really doing is hammering two buttons, the trigger buttons. I believe it's L1 and R1, because that is your kind of execute. The way that Batman has the press two buttons to like when they're grounded to like do the knockout punch, Wolverine's just hit these two trigger buttons over and over again. And for as long as you're in that rage state, Wolverine's just going to one hit shred everything around him. And when you do that, you build up a little more of that rage, and at least to begin with, when you do that successfully, it'll keep you in that rage state for just a little bit longer. I think as time goes on and you develop the character and you go up the skill tree, etc., I imagine by the like late into the game, you can probably stay in that mode for an extended period of time and just really live the Wolverine fantasy. But even at its most basic, I was having a great time just smashing buttons, because you have that release that Wolverine does where you're spending so much time being careful and maneuvering, dodging, rolling, that kind of stuff to make sure you're not getting shot and isn't breaking your combos. And then you reach the point where you're like, I don't have to think about it anymore. I'm in berserker mode. Now you guys are gonna pay. And you just smash that button. It's like, again, it's like that same level of base devolution, instinctual combat that Wolverine is probably going through, where you just are like, kill, die, everyone die. Everyone's dead now. Great. Done. So that's kind of like the main hook of the gameplay for me thus far. And then it gets applied to various scenarios with those enemies, but also some boss battles. There weren't a lot of boss battles. One of the ones that you'll probably see in a lot of the trailers, and the one that I experienced and really enjoyed, was against a prototype Sentinel. You chase Bolivar Trask into his compound, and at one point he activates one of the early Sentinels, and it's one of those like giant boss fights where Creed is up top and Mystique is like at a distance firing a gun, and you're all kind of working together to bring this Sentinel down. It's your first encounter with a Sentinel, so it's very overwhelming at the same time, and it does have that almost like elaborate cinematic boss fight that Insomniac does, but it of course reminded me more of God of War, another Sony stable game, which is like, you know, that kind of like big boss versus small guy kind of, but the small guy is also like way too angry and way deadlier than you might imagine, and is like ripping everything to shreds. That kind of like power trip fantasy. So I really enjoyed that. Also, I just really love Sentinels. They're like a funny, like iconic part of the X-Men universe that as a kid, they used to freak me out. And even though I'm an adult now, I've got like loads of experience with Sentinels and reading about them. They still kind of like, they activate that like that slight child fear response in me, where I'm like, oh no, it's a Sentinel.
Oh, he got the mango Sentinel. That nigga New York Knicks.
Even though I've seen these monsters, these robots get their ass beat constantly, I'm still like, oh shit, it's a Sentinel. You know what that means. But that was a really fun thing. Narratively, I think the interesting stuff that people are going to want to know about is the whole theme is a familiar theme. It's like that Beast Within theme, which again, very Kratos-like, where you know how Kratos is, where he's like, oh man, I remember those Greek gods? I popped a lot of heads, we're dealing with them. There's a monster inside me, be better, etc., etc. He's kind of like that same way, where it's like his memory has fractured in a way where he's not 100% sure who he is entirely. So he's like, inside of me, there are two beasts. One is Wolverine, the other one is just more angry Wolverine. So that's the kind of like thing he's trying to deal with, and it's impacting his relationships in a lot of ways. On the one hand, you have that family unit with Creed, Sabretooth, and Mystique, and Creed wants him to kind of take hold of that and channel it to kind of become the leader that Creed needs as well. Creed is an interesting character. He's got a lot of nuance anyway, but we rarely see him given that nuance in the movies or even in the animated series. He's just Wolverine's annoying like dude from the past who's always trying to kill him. But in this, it's clear like Creed is looking for a family as well. So when Wolverine is doing Wolverine stuff and he vanishes for a while, or he's like being a bit more like rebellious in terms of team dynamic, Creed feels like he's losing control of a found family, which is really interesting because he gets mad at various points where you have a conversation with him and he's like, why don't you just take control of this team and stop being a little baby? And then when like you're like umming and ahhing about it, he gets pissed off and he runs away and that kind of stuff. Mystique, meanwhile, again, similarly treated with a little more nuance than you're used to seeing Mystique, because every time you see Mystique, it's like, this is the lady who can turn into other characters and be confusing to everyone and do stealth. And she definitely does that, but she's also kind of like the level-headed member of this crew. She's way more humanized. But her in this game, the relationship that is kind of like front and center, not just with Wolverine and Creed, is also her relationship with Tiger, who she's in a relationship with, an actual like romantic relationship. And there's some really sweet, heartfelt moments between them where they're kind of like flirty, but also it's kind of like a window into that character that I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by. So I really like that. There's some tragic stuff that happens in one of the scenes that you kind of like, you go back to a home base area, which I won't spoil where it is, but something has happened and everyone's kind of bummed out and it's not a great moment, and you kind of have these conversational moments where you're walking around this bar and you're talking to various mutants and that kind of stuff, and there's a lot of characterization that happens that I really appreciated. So that's all to say that everything that I played was enjoyable and excited, but also I'd be lying if I didn't say like it was completely unsurprising. And that kind of brings me to the next part of where I'm at with this game and taking a step back. It's very much a PlayStation game. I just feel like its effectiveness has started to wear off on me to the point where when I see it now in the games, the first thing that happens is I identify the structure before I actually experience the story. And I'm like, oh, this is a sad dad game, linear, gonna have these moments, etc. I can pretty much plot out how the story's gonna go in my mind, partly because I have extensive experience with the source material, but also because partly all these stories within the PlayStation framework kind of play out in a very similar way. And then once Jean Grey is introduced, you see that element of it start to fit into place. Jean is an interesting character as well because she's also different from what you might expect. And what you probably expect is psychic redhead who is in a love triangle with Wolverine, who's always pining after her, but actually she's mainly into Scott Summers for most of the time, but also is kind of into Wolverine every now and then. And is she Madeline Pryor? Is it Jean, etc., etc. Maybe that stuff will happen eventually, but at least what I played, there's no Scott Summers. She's also kind of like this vigilante, where she's on the run. She's not member of the X-Men. She's just on the run. She's finding mutants in trouble, basically extracting them, saving them, and trying to give them a safe space. And because of that, she's being hunted. And her kind of like meeting Wolverine is her finding her own found family. Again, found family as a theme, very common in games, but also very common in these like Sony's PlayStation Studios cinematic high budget games. But that being said, that structure, it's starting to wear on me a little bit. And I think a lot of it also extends to the characters that we are focused on for superhero games. I'll never say I dislike superhero games. I think it'll be hypocritical because I love superheroes and I love superhero games. They are a big part of my childhood. They still are. Like, I will never turn my nose up at another Spider-Man games. Those games are fantastic. Same goes for Batman, the Batman Arkham series, 3 of my favorite games of all time, 4 if you include Origins. I think that we're becoming, the industry is becoming not lazy, but it's not thinking outside of the box when it comes to superhero games. Like, we're doing the same superheroes over and over again. This is another Wolverine game, and there's a lot of games with Wolverine in them. Like, look at this guy. That's Wolverine over there. Different type of game, but still Wolverine. Spider-Man, we've done how many Spider-Man games? I'm kind of sick of these same heroes because it also kind of limits what you can do mechanically. Like, we are so stuck in that Batman style free flow combat game now that any chance of a new superhero game coming out, the hero that gets picked is probably going to be one that fits into that gameplay framework, design framework. My biggest worry about the Blade game, hopefully it's still coming. Blade, one of my favorite characters ever. I love Blade the movies. I love Wesley Snipes. Huge into Blade. One of my biggest worries about that game is it kind of neatly fits into the same format where it's like dudes are gonna wait around around you, and then you're gonna attack, hit the counter button when someone tries to go for you, and it kind of like it diminishes my excitement for that game. I really wish that the industry starts looking for heroes or characters beyond the obvious ones now. The closest we got to it, actually, ironically, was Suicide Squad. That's a bunch of characters that I was very surprised to see as the main characters of these video games. Unfortunately, like, they largely played very similarly. They had unique ideas, but also they kind of borrowed a lot from the format that I'm talking about. But I think about what could be the next Marvel character. Daredevil. You know Daredevil's going to be fit into that same system. And that's kind of like disappointing to me. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, I hope that the industry starts to explore heroes that aren't so obvious anymore, or characters that aren't so obvious anymore. And starts to figure out new ways to approach this genre, and maybe establish some new design ideas that can, I don't know, be milked for the next few years, but in a way that's at least giving a new lease on life to that genre, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I want to play a Scott Summers game. Like, give me a Cyclops game. I'm not a huge fan of Cyclops, but I don't know, I think about it and I feel like that would be more projectile focused, less melee focused, if you know what I mean. Scott is a big fan of punching people as well, but to a different extent, right? I would love to experience that type of game. Or give me a Phantom X game, pulling characters out my butthole at this point, but like characters that don't neatly fit into the existing framework and template of superhero games. What I expect from Wolverine is a good game that maybe isn't surprising in any gameplay or format ways. I think it could be surprising from a narrative way. I think it could be surprising from a characterization way. But everything outside of that, I feel like even at a preview stage, I have a firm grasp of what it's going to be. Again, I'm not mad at it, but it also kind of dampens my excitement a little bit. When you know exactly what you're in for the most part, it's not as exciting. Like, I could fake it and be like, oh my God, it's going to be so good. It's going to be awesome. I'm so excited for it. Maybe excited is even a bit too far. Like, I'm keen to play it. Realistically looking forward to that game, and I'm sure I'll play it. It'll be good. Insomniac doesn't make shite games. They make baseline fun games, and that's what I expect of it. But am I going to step away feeling like, oh, this is the new Batman, this is setting the kind of standard for all future superhero games? Absolutely not. No, that's not what's going to happen in all likelihood, because this is the format. This is the PlayStation first-party template that it fits into, and it extends beyond superhero games. Like, it's got commonalities with God of War, it's got commonality with Last of Us, it's got commonalities with Horizon. Pretty much every major first-party studio game it shares the DNA with. So there is that element of it. If you're excited for Wolverine, continue to be excited. It's probably going to be good. If you're like, this is going to be an exciting, new, different take on Wolverine, from a gameplay perspective, probably not. I hope that also this isn't the road that Insomniac is going to be forced to walk for years to come. Because you know for a fact, like, Sony's not going to be like, all right, you're done with superhero games now, go and make something else. They'll have more superhero games. We'll probably get another superhero game. We'll probably get maybe another Spider-Man, probably another Wolverine. Maybe they branch out and start building out the X-Men universe in their own universe, and we get another brawler type game, Colossus. And my worry is, like, this is the game that Insomniac's going to be making forever, and that bums me out. I really miss superhero games that were different, and the last superhero game that I played that was like really different that I enjoyed, Infamous Purple is what I call it, Delson Row. That was the last like superhero game that I really enjoyed, and obviously now you look at it and you're like, oh, that's basically the Spider-Man games. It's the same shit, right? Like, it's the same kind of framework and design, but it was different back then. That was complete. That felt like the evolution of the older Spider-Man games. Whereas what the Spider-Man games are now, they share a lot in common with the Infamous games. But I'm like really hopeful that someone comes up with either a new original superhero property or takes a superhero property and gives it a little more thought and a little more creativity and try something different. Make that Daredevil game, but if you're gonna make that Daredevil game, make it half Phoenix Wright. You know what I'm saying? Let me get in a court as Matt Murdock and objection the hell out of some people. Let me play Blade, but like make it, I don't know, Vampire the Masquerade that shit, top to bottom. Let's go. Let me play Hulk, but it's only Bruce Banner and you're doing Dr. Kawashima's brain training. This is why I don't get to make games. I make bad idea games. If you want to read my like concise thoughts, go to GameSpot. You can read my preview there, or you can watch the video. If not, live your life, you know. Go and play some video games. Play this game. This game's good. It works now. Like if you're playing on PlayStation, it works. If you're playing on PC, I'm sorry, man. Anyways, subscribe, like. If you're watching this, you may have missed it, but I actually launched a little project that I've been very fortunate enough to be invited to do with player.gg. You may be familiar with the website. It's kind of like it's becoming a platform, and they just launched something like a curator publication style feature, which is similar to how Substack functions. This is the same platform that Lucy James launched lookingfor.game on, and then they've introduced a bunch of other content creators or other publications. I'm one of them. My publication is called Bonfire Sit, which is pandering to my own tastes and also my, shtick. But that's a place where I'm going to kind of like make these short lists and thematic lists, and also put like some thoughts and feelings every now and then. Also probably put out like videos that I make here and publish them there as well, just like linking back to here. And it's got a element of like monetization as well. I haven't activated any of that stuff yet, but I'm probably will in the future. So if you want to support, you can follow there as well. And if you're inclined to, when the time comes, spend some money on it as well. But if not, you feel free to just share this video, subscribe, check out some of my other videos here as well. And I'll see you very, very soon. Peace, love, drink loads of water, get loads of sleep. Bye.